Hey Sam, so you asked me about the Pope's comment on this, the Lord's Prayer, and here it is in Greek, and I thought I'd do it this way because you can see what I'm going to point out. So the Pope said his famous comments about changing the translation from "lead us not into temptation," that's verse 13, and he wants to change it to something like abandon us not when in temptation. And what do I think about that? Well, first of all, his whole argument for changing the text is, well, because, God would not lead us into temptation, so we shouldn't translate it that way, because God would never lead us into temptation. Well, first of all, the text doesn't say that God would lead us into temptation. That's reading things into the text. So he's basically making an argument for changing the text based on things that are not actually there. And that's an extremely bad way to read the Bible. Lead us not into temptation is what it says. And you can't jump from that to the conclusion that that means that God would try to tempt someone to sin. It doesn't say that. But even if you look at the Greek, though, the word peirasmon, temptation, doesn't always mean temptation the way we think of it. It doesn't always mean temptation as in enticing somebody to sin. But let's take a look. Okay, kai me. Okay, and me is not. Kai is and, me is not. Eisenenkis is. I have a reader's version here. It's and if you look at the footnote, it gives you a bit of a translation. It doesn't replace a lexicon, but it gives you a good idea. So it means bring in, carry in, or lead into, right? Lead us not into, right? That's what it says in the Greek. So his whole argument for needing to change the text, when you actually look at the text in the original languages, it just doesn't make sense. So lead, right? Himas, us. Eis is the word into. Okay? Peirasmon. Now, what does peirasmon mean? Again, I'll just show you the footnote here because it has a definition or short definition. Test, trial, temptation, enticement, testing. That gives you a pretty good idea of what the word peirasmon actually means. So it could be a test, okay, a trial, or a testing, or a temptation, the way we usually think of it. So there's a range of meaning there. So just from the original, there's nothing there about do not abandon us. That's not in there. Not in the original Greek. Do not abandon us while in temptation. That would be just departing from the original text so far that, it's basically doing what the so-called Jehovah's Witnesses do with their New World translations when they add words. That would be what it's doing. And I'm not the only one to say this. That Pope Francis' new translation is flawed. Some Greek scholars like Dr. James White say the same thing. By the way, if you've never taken a look at his page, Alpha and Omega Ministries, www.aomin.org, highly recommended. But yeah, there's nothing in the text that would warrant the retranslation. You can't. Pope Francis' way of translating it really should not. It's not even a translation. It's not a correct translation at all. But one more thing that is often missed is God in control of our temptations? Because if you look at Romans 8, it says that all things work together for the good of those who love God. And when it says all things, it means all things. It doesn't mean some things. And that includes everything, our temptations, our trials, even our sins. And that, of course, that doesn't mean we should just go out there and sin willingly, no. But it does mean that God because he's a good God, can bring good out of evil. He can turn a bad situation out to work for the good, and he's glorified in that way. And I think anyone who would disagree with that is ultimately underestimating God's power. So that's my answer to that.